Hey, what's up? This is Don for VideoFort, and today I'm going to be quickly showing you the techniques which were involved in creating the original VideoFort ident. You know, that awesome sort of really hard-hitting ident that's at the front of all of our videos. And it's actually been like over a year since I first created that. And you know, back then I wasn't as good a artist or technician as I am now, you know, with these programs that I use. And so since then I've actually figured out easier and better ways to do or to achieve the same effect which you see in the VF ident. So hopefully this should be fairly, you know, free flow kind of tutorial where I just cover certain techniques, and we'll start off in Cinema 4D for the 3D section, and then jump into After Effects just for a little bit of compositing, and hopefully you guys will learn something new. Okay, so this is what the scene looks like in Cinema 4D. Just for reference, this took me around, I don't know, maybe like half an hour of just messing around, and this is what I ended up with. So we have this unfold effect to begin with, and then the camera just sort of zooms out quickly, and we transition from VF to VideoFort. Okay, so let me just reset the scene, or sort of bring it back to some kind of starting point, and we'll take it from there. Okay, here is the scene. This is going to be our starting point. So all I have here are two different splines. One is simply just the VF spline. We're going to be working on this primarily and to begin with, and the other is the whole VideoFort logo, so all of the text basically. If you would like, you can download the project files for this below this video, just so maybe you can follow along with the tutorial easier. Okay, let's start with the VF section. So let me drop this into an extrude NURBS, and these icons are kind of small, so let me make them large just so you guys can see better. I have this plugin, this really cool plugin for cinema called Magic Solo. So if you guys use Cinema 4D, you know, sometimes you're working with so many objects, and you know, you just want to focus on one object. Well, this plugin right here allows you to do just that. So you select an object and you hit Magic Solo. It's a free plugin by Nitroman, and if you look around you'll find it. In the latest version of Cinema, actually, Cinema 4D release 16, they've integrated this plugin into the new release. I'm still in release 15, so I don't have the built-in tool, but it works exactly the same, so it should be fine. Okay, let's get back to what we were doing. I'm going to go to the extrude here, go to caps, and I want to put a fillet cap on both the front and the back with a radius of 1 and 4 steps on both. And let me just duplicate this and delete this other spline, or in fact let's just hide this just for backup. In case we mess this up, we can always just come back to this step. Okay, so I'm gonna select this, and first of all we need to break this apart before we can do the cool unfolding animation. And the best way to do this is to use the Thrausi plugin. So another plugin by Nitroman. This is also by Nitroman, and this is one of the most popular plugins for Cinema 4D, and rightly so. It's very versatile and very powerful, and you can really do a lot of cool stuff with it, but primarily it's just a plugin for breaking things up. So I'm going to set the mode to Voronoi, and I'll set the pieces to 10, and I'm just going to hit break now, and you're going to see it basically fracture up the VF logo, and this is what it looks like now. And when I hit play, this is going to just fall off out of the scene because Straussy breaks things up, and then it applies dynamics to dynamics tags. So basically this is now reacting to gravity and so on, but we are not really interested in doing any of that. So first of all, I need to make sure that I'm on frame 0, so we're back to the original position, and then I need to basically delete the dynamic tags. So now when I hit play, nothing changes. Okay, so this fracture object, which was created by Straussy, this first one is carrying the main part of the VF logo, so the V, and then this other section is carrying only this little section under here. I'm gonna just consolidate all of these into the main fracture, the one that's carrying the V, and then delete the other one. And then I also want to remove all of these texture tags and selection tags because I don't need any of them. The only thing I might leave is maybe the font tag, and I think even this needs some adjusting. I can see it doing some weird stuff on the surface there. Let me lower the font angle to 25 or something, maybe even lower, maybe 15. Okay, and this is what we have so far. Okay, so how do we do that sort of unfolding effect? Well, it's very simple. With the fracture object selected, let's make sure that it's enabled, and I'm gonna go to More Graph, Effector, and Plane, and we want to untick position, go to Fall Off, and set this to linear, and we want to do this in the X direction, so +X. And if I go to the parameters section and enable rotation, I can set the one of these to something that I want. So let's see, it's this one we're interested in, the pitch. I want to set this to 360, and now what happens is when I move this through here, this is going to basically unfold and just sort of spin this around once. So we not only want to unfold this, but to also reveal it as it's unfolding. And actually, looking at this, the way this is broken up, I'm not really a big fan of this, because I mean, if you look at this side here, this is fine, but on this other side we have this really big chunk that didn't really break apart that well, and I'm not really liking how that looks. So what I could do at this point, before I move any further, is to actually select that really big piece. I think this is it. Yeah, look how big this is. This should have been broken up a bit more. And I'm going to break this up further, just individually by itself. Let me break it into 5 pieces, and again, using the Voronoi mode, I can hit break now. And this is just going to be sort of merged into this same fracture object, and I just want to go ahead and remove all these texture tags and selection tags that I don't need. And let's make sure all the font tags are the same. And now if I re-enable this and then run the plane effector through, this is just breaking up slightly better. So, you know, if you find yourself with a break that you don't like, you can just redo it from the beginning, or, you know, select the piece you don't like the look of and break it up even further. Okay, so getting back to this unfolding effect, we want to unfold and reveal at the same time. And so what I'm going to do here, go to the plane effector. In the fall off section, I'm going to set the fall off to just 20%. So it rolls in faster instead of being more gradual. and I want to find the visibility switch, and I believe that's going to be in the parameter section. Let's switch on visibility, and if I go back again to the fall off, I want to look for the minimum and maximum. I rarely use this feature, so sometimes I have to look for it. It's in the effector section. I want to set the maximum to 50%. And now you can see that it's unfolding and disappearing. It should be unfolding and appearing. So we need to go back to the plane, and in the fall off I want to invert this, and now it's appearing and unfolding at the same time, and this is what we want. Okay, let's quickly just animate this. Just before this first piece appears, let's bring this back, and I only want to animate the X position for this. So if I go to coordinates, I can hold Control and click the circle next to the position X. That sets a keyframe. I'm going to move forward 40 frames, and then basically move this to when the whole thing has been revealed and stopped rotating. So that's about here, and then I'll hit the keyframe to basically put that into the scene. Let me select both of these and set the mode to linear, and this is the result. I'm still not really liking how this here looks. I just got a bad seed when I broke this up to begin with initially. But hopefully you get the idea. What I will do when we do the render is just revert back to this scene, because I liked how this broke apart initially, and we shall go into After Effects with this rather than this break up here, which I don't like. But this is still useful because you understand the technique anyway. So that's the first step, just rotating and revealing that. Okay, so after the logo finishes unfolding, what happens is the rest of the VideoFort word, the word version of the logo, it basically emerges from somewhere around here, and that's how it sort of unrolls like this. So we want to do the same basically. Let's go back to this scene, and what I will need to do here is to use a spline mask, and for this is where this other spline we saved at the beginning is going to come in useful. So I'm just going to duplicate this and then get the VideoFort spline, the main spline. Let me solo just these two and bring back the VF, and I just want to make sure that the V on the VideoFort lines up with this VF here, the V on the VF, and this is going to be the endpoint of this whole thing. So I know that my unfold finishes at 40 frames, and when this comes out it happens over 10 frames. So if I go to frame 50, I can set a keyframe for this, and I actually only want to do this on the position X. So here we go, and then I want to go back to frame 40 and basically animate this when it's on the other side of the VF, basically before it would start revealing. So the edge of the T lines up with the edge of the VF here, and that's it. I set another keyframe. I'm going to select both of these and change the mode to linear also, so there is no ease in or ease out. When I play, it's going to look like this. So how do we make this emerge only from this section rather than starting all the way over here and ending over here? This is where we use the spline mask. So if I first of all shut off this VF, let me get a rectangle and just pull it to the left, and I want to make sure that it's large enough to hold the entire word. So if I go to the object properties of the rectangle, I want to increase the width just enough for it to hold the whole word, like so. And if I go to frame 45, when the word has sort of half gone out, I can go to the array icon and get spline mask. And then if I make this rectangle editable, I can get the rectangle and the VideoFort and place them both into the spline mask. And I want to just play around with the modes until I get what looks right, and it's B subtract A in this case, but it may be it may be inverted if this is the other way around. So if the VideoFort is on top, it would be A subtract B, and you would get the same result basically. And now this looks as if the text is emerging from that section. And if I re-enable the VF, you can see what's happening. It just sort of emerges from the left side of the VF. I want it to emerge from the VF itself, so I want it to emerge in line with the edge of the V rather than starting here. And so I have to go to the rectangle. Let me shut off the spline mask for now and shut off the VideoFort spline and only leave the rectangle and the VF spline. If I go to the front view, I want to go to point mode, click on the rectangle and make a few cuts. If I get the knife tool, so M followed by K, that gets me the knife. I just want to make a cut here first of all, and then another cut here, and in fact we just need 2 small cuts on both of those points like this. And then if I get the point on the inside up here and this other point on the inside, in fact I only want one at a time. Let me pull it this way, and this other point I will get both of these and pull them this way. Get this point, continue it on to where the V starts to curve down, and then get this point down here and just make it so that it lines up with the V like this. And so now when I enable the spline mask and so on, what's going to happen here is the VideoFort is going to emerge only from the edge of the V here. Now if you don't like how that looks, you could perhaps just move the rectangle points for it to start, say somewhere like here, and it's still gonna be within the V, but personally I like to do it flush with the edge of the first letter. And there we go. Okay, so once we have that animation blocked in, we can unsolo, and let's look at the whole scene together. I want to get this spline mask and basically throw it into the same extrude which we used on the original VF logo. So if I just duplicate this, if you remember we saved this from the beginning, I can remove the VF logo from it and just use this extrude, and it has the same properties, you know, how the edge looks and so on. And so when this finishes unfolding, the VideoFort text comes out, and you know, its resting position, the final frame on frame 50, you can see that this is intersecting. And so essentially at this point we have to do a kind of switch where we switch off the VF logo, so that in the end all we have is the VideoFort logo in full, rather than having this VF intersecting with the VF logo. So what I did was, on the fracture object, let's just label this correctly, let's call it VF. Let's call the plane effector plane reveal, and this is basically just backup, so let's drop this all the way down and let's call this VideoFort text. On the VF fracture here, with this thing carrying all these pieces, I want to go to Cinema 4D tags and enable the display tag, and then I want to go to visibility, and let's click use this, set the visibility to 0. So this is going to make this disappear, and we want this to happen basically at frame 50. So if I hold control, I can set a keyframe, go back one frame, and then in fact the keyframe needs to be on the use rather than the visibility control itself. So just a mistake there. Let me undo that. So let's set the keyframe on the use switch, and then go back one frame, and then untick use, and then set a keyframe. So when the VideoFort text rests, that's when the VF disappears, like this. Now we can clearly see this is quite jagged and it's very jarring. We can see this disappearing quite clearly. But by the time we render and we have lighting and texturing and so on, and we have motion blur and all that other cool stuff, it's going to happen so fast that you're not going to see it switching. If we just look at the original VF logo animation, that's exactly what happens. The thing unfolds and then you don't ever see it switch, right? Because you have VF here, and then it just unfolds out of itself like this, and you don't see the VF switching to just a V. And that's exactly what's going to happen here. Well, you're not going to see it happen, but it does happen. Okay, let's add some more animation to this. So if we just look at the original VF logo, I'm just looking at this in Premiere just so I can rewind back and forth. This rotates down. It starts off upside down basically, and then rotates down and rests in this position, and it's unfolding and rotating at the same time. So let's do the same in here. And for this to work, we need to basically rotate everything that's in the scene. So I'm going to go back to frame 0, create a null. Let's call this null rotate all or something, just so everything is organized. And let's drop everything we have into here. So we have this. So the null is already in the center of our text in terms of up and down, but it's not in the center in terms of front to back. It's only at the front of the text here. So if I get the axis tool, I can move this. I have to make sure that I'm on frame 0 when I'm doing all of this. So move this into Z space until it's in the middle basically. And that's going to be about 11 centimeters because I know the depth of the text is 22. It's 20 plus both of the caps. So 20 plus 1 plus 1 is 22. So if I put the null 11 into Z space, this is what we get basically. So I can then zero this out if I go back to modeling mode, and when I rotate this now, it's going to be rotating from the center. Okay, so let's go to frame 40. This is when the unfolding finishes, and here I want to set a keyframe on it's the pitch. So let's set a keyframe, go back to frame 0, and then set this to minus 360 to begin with, and then keyframe this. And this is what we have. So it's folding, it's unfolding and then rotating forward, and it stops, and then the VideoFort text pops out. Okay, that's quite cool. Let's quickly just block in some basic camera movement. So I'm gonna go to frame, say just frame 40 when the whole word is on the screen. Let's center this, and with the camera selected, I'm going to just press keyframe to keyframe the position and rotation at the same time. And then if I go to frame 0, maybe I want to zoom out slightly, or in fact let's zoom in. So we start off a bit zoomed in, and it's zooming out as this is unfolding. And then at this point, the camera needs to jump back and basically frame up all of the text. So if I move to frame 50, I basically want to go to here, like this. So when this unfolds, the camera is moving with it, just like that. And you can see we're getting some weird movement, and that's just because of the way the curves have worked. So I'm going to remove all the curves by just selecting all the keyframes and setting the motion to linear. And then this unfolds and then jumps back like this. I'm going to set the duration to 6 seconds roughly. Go to the end here and then just rotate the camera slightly to something like this maybe, and maybe zoom out slightly, and then set a keyframe. And then of course if I go to the timeline and look at all of this, I can tell that it's gonna be, the last keyframe is not linear, so let me select this and then just make it linear like that. So this is roughly what we get in the end. So very basic, but I hope you understand the techniques. First of all, how to undo, how to break the logo into pieces, and then how to do the unfold animation, and then how to reveal all of the text, and then just a basic camera move. Now, I actually don't like how this scene has turned out, mainly because of the way this was broken up to begin with. It looks a bit too messy. So what I will do at this point is jump back to the scene which I prepared for the tutorial with. And here I just want to do a basic light setup and just a basic texture. And I've just noticed that my extrude here does not have some steps on the caps, and so the edges were not curved, but now they are. So that looks better. I'm going to get the target light. Let's just make this wider so the whole thing is illuminated. I'm going to duplicate this and basically throw it across to the other side by reversing the X position, and set the intensity of this to 25. Let's duplicate this another time, throw it to the back here, and maybe half the X position by dividing by 2, and do the same for Y, and then make the intensity of this light 150. So it's really strong, and it's going to be illuminating the inside of the letters. When I look at this, you can see the illumination on the inside over here, and that's a pretty cool look. Let's quickly create a basic material. So just double click to get the new material, go to reflection. I'm going to set this to about 90 on the brightness, get Fresnel, and set this to about maybe 30% or so. I'm going to go to the specular and make this narrow but really tall, so we get a nice sharp highlight. I can drop this onto the null object, and this is going to apply to everything in this null. And that's what we get. Let's create a sky object, and here I am going to load up this basic environment image. I'm going to go to filter, colorize, and I can just drop this onto the sky. And I don't want to see it in the background, so we'll go to tags, get the compositing tag, and untick scene by camera. If I jump into the camera, this is what we have. So it's unfolding and then unrolls. I'm going to press Ctrl D to bring up the project settings, and I'm going to disable linear workflow. I prefer the look without linear workflow. but I think maybe this could be darker. And that's how you create basic shiny text. Let's bump up the anti-aliasing. So I'm going to set it to best, 1x1, 4x4, with a threshold of 5%. I'm going to go to the options and the ray, reflection, and shadow. I'm going to set this to 6, 2, and 6. And if I go to my lights, I can set this to shadow maps soft. And that's just going to help to give a bit of definition and depth to the whole thing. Now, in separate tutorials, I have actually covered quite extensively the best ways to light and texture 3D text to get that shiny, metallic, and sort of chrome look. So look those up on the channel. I think there's like 1 or 2 different tutorials in which I cover that, and basically you may want to just watch through those because I go into more detail. Right here though, I just want to take this into After Effects and be finished with it. Okay, so this is it. This is ready to render now, so I'm going to run the render and then we'll jump into After Effects. Well, I will quickly show you how to do this sort of flash and flares effect. Okay, so we're now in After Effects. Let me just import this whole sequence, and it's told me here that this is going to be 30 FPS, and when I rendered it was 24, so I just need to reinterpret this. Go to main and assume 24 FPS. I'm gonna hit OK, and let's drag this to the new comp button, and this is what it looks like in After Effects. Let me just reposition this so it's more central, and I can just pre-comp this and create a new solid, and let's call this flares. Go to Effect, Video Copilot, and Optical Flares. I'm going to go to Options, and I'm going to use the exact flare that I used in the original project, and it's this one here. Now, under positioning mode, we want to change the source type from 2D to luminance, and this allows us to point to a layer under source layer. Let's point this to our comp, the pre-render that we did. And now what's happening is the brightest parts of, on the frame, that's where the flares are being overlaid onto. I don't want to track the color or the scale or the brightness for that matter. Maybe we can track the brightness, but definitely not the scale, because it just becomes too big. And this is what it looks like right now. Let's put the render mode to be on transparent, and I'll put the blending mode of this layer to add. And now you can see as this is unrolling, we get these light flashes. You can fine-tune this by adjusting the threshold, basically. I find that 0% actually works quite well anyway. And I can maybe scale this down so we have smaller flashes, but we have lots of them. And then when it gets to this point, when it sort of whizzes backwards, I can animate the brightness over those 10 frames to when it stops, and go from 100 to 0. So we only have the flashes to begin with, and then it just fades off, basically. And that's exactly what happens in the actual ident. Okay, the last step that I would maybe do if this were an actual project is apply some motion blur. Now I use a plugin called RSMB, which stands for Real Smart Motion Blur. I can just apply this on top of this, and it is going to work out all of the motion blur for me. And if I play this back, this is the result. So we have the unfolding, we've got the cool flashes, and then we have the whole logo revealing. And if you remember what I said earlier about the fact that, you know, when the whole thing is finished and you have all of these effects on top of it, you're not going to notice the fact that the V switches over one frame. So it's all about just hiding what you can, and you know, guiding the viewer's eye to where you want, and hiding any imperfections. And motion blur is a good way to do that. But anyway, that marks the end of this tutorial. Now, this is something which was requested by a lot of people in comments on some of our videos. They were asking how do we create, you know, this VideoFort Ident. Now, from watching what I've just shown you, you are probably not going to be able to create the ident as it looks exactly here. It was never my intention to do that anyway. I just wanted to show you the different techniques involved in each of the steps, and then you know, so take what you've learned from this and apply it to your own projects. Don't just go ahead and just, you know, copy this exactly the same. You know, just use the skills differently, and that's how tutorials should be anyway. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. Thank you for being patient. This is my first tutorial in quite some time, so it may not have been as fluid as my other tutorials, but still, I hope you learned something new, and I will see you next time. Bye.